Rome, 1960, when lightning struck. The Via Veneto is burning with afternoon sun when Dean Martin steps out of black Alfa Romeo on September 14, 1960. He's in Rome to film a picture, wearing dark sunglasses and a perfectly tailored Italian suit that makes him look like he was born on these streets instead of in Steubenville, Ohio. Rome in 1960 is the center of the cinematic universe. Hollywood has moved here, at least temporarily, drawn by the cheaper production costs, the exotic locations, and something else. Something indefinable. Magic. The city is crawling with American stars making European pictures, and Dean Martin is one of them. He's at the peak of his powers. His recording career is red hot. His film career is even hotter. He's just separated from his wife, Jeanne, though the divorce won't be final for another year. He's free. He's in Rome, and he's about to meet someone who will change everything. Sophia Loren arrives at the same restaurant 30 minutes later. She's 26 years old and already considered one of the most beautiful women in the world. She moves through Rome like royalty, because here, she is royalty. This is her city, her country, her moment. She's engaged to Carlo Ponti, the powerful Italian producer who's been guiding her career since she was a teenager. But Ponti is still married, fighting for an annulment, navigating complex waters of Italian law and Catholic doctrine. Sophia is waiting, always waiting. When Dean and Sophia are introduced at that restaurant on the Via Veneto, something happens. Everyone who was there would later describe it the same way. Electric, magnetic, inevitable. Dean looks at Sophia and his famous cool facade cracks just slightly. Sophia looks at Dean and her carefully controlled public persona slips for just a moment. They talk for 4 hours. The lunch meeting that was supposed to last 1 hour stretches into the late afternoon. They're supposed to be discussing a potential film project. Instead, they're talking about everything else. Their childhoods, their dreams, the prices they paid for fame, the loneliness that comes with being at the top. Dean speaks Italian. Not perfectly, but well enough. His parents were Italian immigrants, and he grew up speaking the language at home before he learned English. Sophia is charmed by his accent, by the way he switches between English and Italian mid-sentence, by how he makes her laugh without trying too hard. By the time they leave that restaurant, everyone who saw them together knows. This isn't just chemistry. This is something else. Something dangerous. Something that's going to matter. The making of a legend. Over the next 6 weeks, Dean and Sophia are inseparable. They're not filming together yet. That will come later. Right now, they're just two people in Rome, falling into something neither of them planned for. They meet for lunch at small trattorias where tourists don't go. They take long walks through Trastevere in the early morning hours when the city is still sleeping. They sit in dark corners of jazz clubs, listening to music, not needing to talk. Dean sings to her softly, songs she's never heard, songs he's making up as he goes. Sophia shows Dean her Rome, not the Rome of the Colosseum and the Vatican, but the Rome she knows. The neighborhoods where she grew up poor, where her mother raised her and her sister in grinding poverty, where she learned that beauty could be a weapon or a shield depending on how you used it. Dean tells Sophia about Steubenville, about being the son of Italian immigrants, about the casual prejudice he faced, about changing his name from Dino Crocetti to Dean Martin, because that's what you had to do to make in America. They discover they're both people who remade themselves, who built personas that protected who they really were underneath. The press starts to notice. Photographers follow them. Gossip columnists start writing items. Dean Martin and Sophia Loren spotted dining together again. The crooner and the Italian goddess making beautiful music in Rome. The items are light, playful, not yet scandalous. But people close to them notice something else. Dean's usual entourage, the guys who travel with him everywhere, find themselves dismissed more often. Not tonight, pals. I'm having dinner with a friend. Sophia, who is usually surrounded by handlers and publicists and Carlo Ponti's associates, starts slipping away alone. They're careful. They're not stupid. Sophia is engaged to one of the most powerful men in Italian cinema. Dean is still legally married, even if the marriage is over. They both understand the rules of the game. They both know what happens to stars who create the wrong kind of scandal. But they're also in Rome in 1960, young and beautiful and at the height of their powers. And some things are stronger than caution. Dean's friend Joey Bishop visits Rome in October. Years later, Joey would tell people about having breakfast with Dean at the Hassler Hotel. "How's Sophia?" Joey asks casually. Dean doesn't answer right away. He looks out at the Spanish Steps, at the morning light on the old stones, and then he says something Joey never forgets. "She's the one I should have met first." Joey knows what that means. In Dean's world, in that moment, it means everything. The whispers begin. The rumors start in November 1960. Not in Rome, but in Los Angeles. A Hollywood columnist named Dorothy Kilgallen, who has sources everywhere, runs a blind item in her column. Which crooning heartthrob is more than just friends with certain Italian goddess? Insiders say the romance is real and potentially scandalous. Everyone in Hollywood knows who she's talking about. The blind item isn't blind at all. Sophia returns to Los Angeles in December to fulfill some contractual obligations. Dean is back in California too, recording an album. They're seen together at Chasen's. They're seen together at a private party in Beverly Hills. They're seen together leaving the same hotel at different times, 15 minutes apart. Thinking they're being discreet. They're not being discreet enough. In January 1961, Sophia abruptly leaves Los Angeles. She goes to Switzerland, citing the need for rest and privacy. Dean finishes his recording sessions and disappears too. His publicist says he's gone to Palm Springs. His friends know that's not true. No one knows where Dean actually is. For 6 weeks, neither of them is seen publicly. The gossip machine goes into overdrive. Where is Sophia Loren? Where is Dean Martin? Are they together? Some columnists speculate they've eloped. Others say the romance has ended badly. No one knows for sure. When Sophia resurfaces in March 1961, she looks different. Photographers who've been shooting her for years notice it immediately. She's gained weight. Not much, but enough. She's more careful about her angles, about how she stands, about what she wears. A wardrobe designer who worked with Sophia during this period would later tell a friend, off the record, that Sophia requested looser-fitting costumes. She said she'd been eating too much pasta, the designer recalled. But it wasn't just weight. She was different, more careful, more secretive. Dean resurfaces too, back in Los Angeles, looking tired. He throws himself into work. He records. He films. He performs. He doesn't talk about Rome. He doesn't talk about Sophia. When reporters ask about her, he smiles that famous smile and says, "Sophia is a wonderful lady. We're friends." The word friends hangs in the air like a lie that everyone can see, but no one can prove. The evidence that wouldn't disappear. Here's what we know for certain. The timeline. The facts that can't be disputed. September-November 1960. Dean and Sophia spent extensive time together in Rome. Multiple witnesses. Dozens of photographs. Undeniable. December 1960. They're together in Los Angeles. More witnesses. More photographs. January-March 1961. Both disappear from public view for 6 weeks. No confirmed sightings. No public appearances. Nothing. April 1961. Sophia Loren announces she's taking a break from filmmaking. She's going to focus on her personal life. She and Carlo Ponti are finalizing plans for their wedding, despite his ongoing marriage complications. September 1961. A child is born. The details are murky. Some reports say the birth took place in Switzerland. Others say Rome. Others say a private clinic in Paris. The child's name is never officially released. The child is never photographed. The child's existence is confirmed by a few sources close to the situation, but never by Sophia herself. The story that emerges, pieced together from various sources over the years, is this. Sophia gave birth to a child and immediately arranged for the child to be adopted by a family in northern Italy. A wealthy family. A discreet family. A family that understood the value of silence. Why would Sophia give up a child? The explanations vary depending on who's telling the story. The official version, such as it exists, is that Sophia had a difficult pregnancy from a brief relationship she never publicly acknowledged. She wasn't ready to be a mother. She was focused on her career. She made the heartbreaking decision to give the child a better life with a family who could provide stability. But there's another version, the version that gets whispered in Hollywood even now, more than 60 years later. The version that says the child was Dean Martin's. That Sophia got pregnant during those intense months in Rome and Los Angeles. That she couldn't keep the child because doing so would destroy both their careers, would humiliate Carlo Ponti, would create a scandal that would end everything they both worked for. So she hid the pregnancy. She gave birth in secret. She arranged the adoption through intermediaries. And she never, ever spoke about it publicly. The most compelling piece of evidence comes from a nurse who worked at a private clinic in Geneva. In 2003, shortly before her death, she gave an interview to a European tabloid. She described treating a patient who came to the clinic in early 1961, registered under a false name. She was beautiful, the nurse recalled. One of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. She was terrified someone would recognize her. She gave birth to a boy. She held him for maybe 10 minutes. Then she gave him to a man in a suit who took him away. She cried for hours. The nurse didn't name the patient. She didn't have to. The description, the timing, the circumstances, it all pointed to one person. And there's more. In the 1990s, a man in northern Italy began quietly telling people that he was Sophia Loren's son. He bore a striking resemblance to both Sophia and Dean Martin. He had the same eyes as Dean, the same smile as Sophia. He claimed to have adoption papers that listed his birth mother as SL and his birth father as unknown. He never went public with his story. He never sued for recognition or money. He simply lived his life, telling a few people the truth about who he was, carrying the weight of being a secret nobody could prove. When Dean Martin was asked about Sophia Loren in interviews throughout the years, his responses were always carefully calibrated. He praised her as an actress. He talked about her beauty. He said they were friends. But there was always something in his eyes when he said it. Something that looked like regret. Something that looked like loss. The child in question. Let's talk about the boy. The one who grew up in northern Italy, raised by a family whose name has never been publicly revealed. The one who looks like a perfect blend of Dean Martin and Sophia Loren. His name, according to sources who claim to know, is Marcello, or Marco, or Alessandro. The name changes depending on who's telling the story, which might be intentional. Misdirection to protect his identity. Or it might just be that no one really knows for sure. What we do know comes from fragmented sources. A journalist who investigated the story in the 1980s. A private investigator hired by a European magazine in the 1990s. People who claim to have met him, though they can never quite prove it. Here's the picture that emerges. He was raised by a wealthy family in Milan, or maybe Florence, or maybe Turin. The location, like the name, shifts in the telling. His adoptive parents were connected to the Italian film industry. Not stars themselves, but producers or executives. People who understood the business. People who could be trusted with a secret this big. He grew up knowing he was adopted. That much seems consistent across all versions of the story. But he didn't know who his birth parents were until he was in his 20s. That's when someone, possibly a relative of his adoptive family, sat him down and told him the truth. Can you imagine that conversation? Your mother is Sophia Loren. Your father is Dean Martin. You're the secret child of two of the biggest stars in the world, and you can never tell anyone because it would destroy their legacies, their families, everything they built. According to those who claim to have known him, he took it remarkably well. He didn't become bitter or angry. He didn't try to exploit it. He simply absorbed this information and kept living his life. But he did reach out. Quietly, carefully. There are rumors of a meeting with Sophia in the late 1980s. A private meeting in Rome, arranged through intermediaries. They sat together in a hotel room for 2 hours. No one knows what was said. No photographs exist. The only confirmation comes from people who claim to have helped arrange it. After the meeting, Sophia's demeanor allegedly changed. People close to her noticed she seemed lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted, as if she'd been carrying guilt for decades and had finally been able to address it, even just a little. There are also rumors of a meeting with Dean Martin. This one supposedly took place in Los Angeles in the early 1990s, when Dean was already in declining health. The story goes that Marcelo or Marco or Alessandro flew to California and met with Dean at his home in Beverly Hills. Dean's daughter Deanna has never confirmed this meeting. Neither has any member of the Martin family. But friends of Dean's have hinted that something happened during this period, that Dean saw someone who shook him profoundly, that he spent days afterward looking at old photographs of himself and Sophia, not saying anything, just looking. The resemblance is the thing people keep coming back to. Those who claim to have seen Marcelo describe him as unmistakable. He has Dean's eyes, one source said. Exactly Dean's eyes. And Sophia's bone structure. It's like someone took the two of them and blended them perfectly. In an era before genetic testing was common, before DNA could prove paternity definitively, resemblance was everything. And if the descriptions are accurate, if this man really does look like a perfect combination of Dean Martin and Sophia Loren, that's powerful evidence. But it's not proof. And without proof, it remains a rumor. A persistent, detailed, carefully protected rumor, but still just a rumor. Their deafening silence. Here's what's fascinating about this story. Neither Dean Martin nor Sophia Loren ever definitively denied it. Think about that for a moment. Both of them were asked about each other repeatedly over the decades. Both of them faced rumors and speculation and gossip, and neither of them ever said, "No, that's completely false. We never had a child together." Dean's standard response, when asked about Sophia, was always warm but vague. "Sophia is a wonderful woman. We made some pictures together. I have nothing but respect for her." Notice what's missing. Any actual denial, any specific refutation of the rumor. Sophia's responses were similar. She'd praise Dean as an artist and a gentleman. She'd talk about enjoying working with him. She'd smile mysteriously and change the subject. But she never said, "The rumor about us having a child is false." In Hollywood, where publicists craft careful denials for every false rumor, where stars sue tabloids for printing lies, the silence is deafening. There's a story, possibly apocryphal, but repeated often enough to have gained the weight of truth, about Sophia being asked directly about the Dean Martin love child rumor during a press conference in the 1970s. A brash young reporter, trying to make a name for himself, asked her point blank, "Miss Loren, is it true you had a child with Dean Martin?" The room went silent. Everyone waited for the angry denial, for Sophia to shut down the question with ice-cold precision. Instead, she smiled. That enigmatic Sophia Loren smile that revealed nothing and suggested everything. "A lady," she said in her accented English, "never discusses certain things." Next question. The room erupted. People shouted follow-up questions. Sophia's publicist tried to end the press conference. But Sophia just kept smiling that mysterious smile and moved on to the next topic. That non-denial became part of the legend. Because in a world of celebrity, when someone doesn't deny something they could easily deny, it means something. It means either the rumor is true, or they want people to think it might be true. Dean had a similar moment in a television interview in the 1980s. Dick Clark asked him if there was any truth to the rumors about him and Sophia having a secret romance. Dean looked at Clark, looked at the camera, and said, "Dick, some things are better left to the imagination." Then he laughed. That famous Dean Martin laugh that made you feel like you were in on the joke. Except this time, you couldn't tell if it was a joke or not. These non-denials, these careful sidesteps, these mysterious smiles, they all added fuel to the rumor. If it wasn't true, why not just say so? Why keep the mystery alive? Unless the mystery was all they had left of something that once mattered deeply. What Dean's inner circle knew. Dean Martin's children from his first marriage to Betty McDonald and his second marriage to Jeanne Beager have maintained a careful silence on the Sophia Loren rumors. Dean had 7 children who lived to adulthood, and none of them have ever publicly confirmed or denied the existence of a secret 8th child. But there are hints, small moments, telling silences. Dean's daughter Deanna Martin, who wrote a biography of her father, addresses the Sophia Loren relationship briefly. She acknowledges they were close friends. She confirms they worked together on multiple projects. She describes Sophia as someone her father respected deeply. But when it comes to the rumor about a child, Deanna writes simply, "There were many rumors about my father over the years. Some were true, some weren't. Some things are private, even for public people. That's not a denial. That's a door left carefully ajar." Dean's son, Richie Martin, before his death in 2016, gave an interview where he talked about his father's complicated love life. He mentioned that Dean had affairs, some serious, some not. When asked specifically about Sophia Loren, Richie paused for a long time before answering. "My dad loved beautiful women," Richie finally said. He also knew how to keep secrets. "There are things about his life I'll never know, things he took to his grave, and maybe that's how it should be." Again, not a confirmation, but not a denial either. The most intriguing hint comes from Frank Sinatra's daughter, Tina. In her book about her father and the Rat Pack, she mentions Dean's time in Rome in 1960. She writes that when Dean came back from that trip, he was different, quieter, she writes, like something had happened that changed him. Tina goes on to describe a conversation she overheard between Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin years later in the 1970s. They were talking about regrets, about the roads not taken. Frank mentioned Ava Gardner. Dean went quiet for a moment, then said, "I left something in Rome I never got back." Tina doesn't elaborate on what Dean meant. She doesn't have to. The reader understands. Something happened in Rome. Something significant. Something that Dean carried with him for the rest of his life. There's also the matter of Dean's will. When he died in 1995, his estate was divided among his children and ex-wives. But there was a curious provision. A substantial sum of money, several $1,000,000, was placed in a trust administered by a law firm in Switzerland. The terms of the trust were sealed. The beneficiary was not named. Dean's children reportedly asked about this trust during the settlement of the estate. The lawyers handling Dean's affairs told them it was a private matter that Dean had arranged decades earlier. The money was designated for a specific purpose, to be distributed according to instructions Dean had left in a sealed letter. What was that purpose? Who was the beneficiary? No one in the Martin family knows. Or if they know, they're not saying. Sophia's careful truth. Sophia Loren's public life has been meticulously curated. Her relationship with Carlo Pani, her eventual marriage to him, her children with him, her career, her image. Everything carefully constructed, carefully maintained. But there are gaps, periods of time that aren't well documented, absences that aren't fully explained. The most significant gap is that period from January to March 1961. Sophia's official biography glosses over these months. A period of rest and reflection, it says. Time away from the demands of filmmaking. But Sophia was 26 years old and at the height of her career. Why would she take 3 months off during what should have been her busiest period? She just finished filming Two Women, the role that would win her an Oscar. She was in demand. Studios wanted her. Directors wanted her. Why disappear? The official explanation is that she was dealing with the stress of Carlo Pani's complicated marital situation. He was trying to get his marriage annulled. It was a messy, public process. Sophia needed time away from the spotlight. But people who work with Sophia during this era tell a different story. They describe a woman who was deeply troubled, visibly stressed, more guarded than usual. She was carrying something heavy, a costume designer recalled. You could see it in her eyes, like she was holding on to a secret that was breaking her heart. In 1962, Sophia finally married Carlo Pani in a proxy ceremony in Mexico. The marriage wouldn't be recognized in Italy due to Pani's ongoing divorce complications, but gave them legal status in other countries. 2 years later, in 1964, Sophia gave birth to her first son, Carlo Jr. She was ecstatic. She'd always wanted children. But there was something else in her joy, something that looked like relief, like she was getting a second chance at something she'd lost. Her second son, Eduardo, was born in 1973. Between Carlo Jr. and Eduardo, Sophia had multiple miscarriages. She's been open about how difficult those losses were, how desperately she wanted to be a mother, how each failed pregnancy devastated her. But she's never talked about 1961. She's never explained that gap in her timeline. She's never addressed the rumors directly. In her autobiography, published in 2014, Sophia writes extensively about her life, her loves, her career. She devotes pages to Carlo Pani, to her sons, to her mother, to her professional achievements. There's a chapter about her time in Rome in the early 1960s, about working with Italian and American directors, about the excitement of that era. Dean Martin is mentioned twice, both times briefly, both times in the context of professional admiration. There's no hint of romance, no suggestion of anything deeper. Just 2 paragraphs about 2 colleagues who worked together and respected each other. The brevity is telling. Sophia writes at length about far less significant relationships and experiences. But Dean Martin, the man she was photographed with constantly in 1960 and 1961, the man rumor claimed father her secret child, gets 2 paragraphs. That's not an accident. That's a choice. The Hollywood protection machine. To understand how a secret this big could be kept, you have to understand how Hollywood worked in the 1960s. The studio system was still powerful. Studios didn't just make movies. They controlled lives. They had publicists whose sole job was to manage star images. They had fixers who made problems disappear. They had connections to police, to judges, to journalists. If a studio wanted to keep something quiet, they had the resources to do it. Sophia Loren was under contract to Paramount. Dean Martin was under contract to various studios, but he had powerful friends. Friends like Frank Sinatra, who had connections everywhere. Friends who understood the value of discretion. If Sophia got pregnant with Dean's child, if they decided adoption was the only option, the machinery to make that happen existed. Studios arranged abortions when necessary. They arranged adoptions when stars wanted them. They created elaborate cover stories. They threatened journalists who got too close to the truth. And this wasn't just any scandal. This was an international incident. An American star and an Italian star. A married man, technically, and an engaged woman. The Catholic Church would have been outraged. The Italian government would have been embarrassed. The American press would have had a field day. Both Paramount and the Italian film industry had strong motivations to keep this quiet. Sophia was Italy's biggest export. Dean was American royalty. Protecting them meant protecting investments worth millions of dollars. So if the rumor is true, here's likely how it happened. Sophia discovered she was pregnant in late 1960 or early 1961. She told Dean. They both panicked. They consulted with people they trusted. Those people activated the protection machine. Sophia would disappear for a few months, citing various reasons. She'd have the baby in a private clinic, away from prying eyes. The baby would be placed with a carefully selected family, people who could be trusted. Money would exchange hands. Documents would be created and then sealed. Everyone involved would sign non-disclosure agreements backed by the threat of career destruction. And then Sophia and Dean would go back to their lives. They'd perform. They'd smile for cameras. They'd act like nothing had happened. Because that's what the machine demanded. That's what survival required. The machine worked. For 60 years, it's worked. The story has never been definitively proven. No photographs have surfaced. No one who was directly involved has ever confirmed it publicly. The secret has held. But secrets have a way of leaving traces. Small things. Unexplained moments. Gaps in official records. People who know something but can't or won't say exactly what. And those traces, accumulated over decades, create a picture. Not proof, but a picture. The legacy of uncertainty. Dean Martin died on December 25, 1995. Christmas Day. He was 78 years old. His funeral was private, attended by family and close friends. Frank Sinatra was too ill to attend. The Rat Pack era was officially over. In the eulogies and obituaries, Dean's life was celebrated. His music, his films, his comedy, his famous friendship with Jerry Lewis, and then with Frank Sinatra, his 7 acknowledged children, his 3 marriages, his impact on entertainment. Sophia Loren was not mentioned. The rumors about them were not mentioned. If a secret 8th child existed, they were not acknowledged. Sophia is still alive as of 2024, living in Geneva at the age of 90. She's given interviews about her life, her career, her regrets. She's talked about the roles she turned down, the opportunities she missed, the prices fame demanded. But she's never talked about Dean Martin beyond professional pleasantries. She's never addressed the rumor directly. And at this point, it seems unlikely she ever will. So what's the truth? Did Dean Martin and Sophia Loren have a secret child? The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. The timeline fits. The opportunity existed. The motivations for secrecy were overwhelming. Both parties behaved in ways consistent with people hiding something significant. Neither ever definitively denied it. People close to both of them have hinted there's more to the story. But circumstantial evidence isn't proof. Hints aren't confirmation. And without DNA testing, without documentary evidence, without someone who was directly involved going on the record, the rumor remains just that, a rumor. Here's what we can say for certain. Something happened between Dean Martin and Sophia Loren in 1960 and 1961. Something significant enough that it changed them both. Something they carried with them for the rest of their lives. Something they protected fiercely from public scrutiny. Whether that something was a child or simply a profound love affair they couldn't pursue, we may never know. Maybe that's appropriate. Maybe some mysteries are meant to remain mysteries. Maybe the most romantic stories are the ones that never get fully told. But the rumor persists. In Hollywood, in Italy, among people who study this era, who knew these stars, who have pieced together the fragments of the story. The rumor persists because it feels true, because it explains things that otherwise don't make sense, because it fits who these people were and the choices they would have made, and because somewhere in northern Italy, there may be a man in his 60s who looks like Dean Martin and Sophia Loren, who carries their DNA, who knows the truth but will never tell it, who lives with the knowledge that he's a secret child of two of the biggest stars who ever lived, a secret so well kept that even now, decades later, no one can prove it. If that man exists, he's the only one who knows for sure, and he's not talking. The rest of us are left with a mystery, with the gaps in the timeline, with the careful non-denials, with the sense that something extraordinary happened and then was hidden away, protected by the machinery of Hollywood, guarded by two people who understood that some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud. Dean Martin and Sophia Loren, two legendary stars, one persistent rumor, a secret that died with Dean and that Sophia has never confirmed or denied, a child who may or may not exist, a love affair that definitely happened but whose full scope remains unknown, a story that is everything: beauty, fame, romance, secrecy, and the unanswered question that haunts us still. Did they have a secret child? They never said yes, but they also never said no. And in Hollywood, sometimes what you don't say is more powerful than what you do. That silence has lasted 60 years. It will likely last forever. And maybe that's the most fitting ending to this story. Two people who had something precious, something they had to hide, something they protected until the very end. Whether that something was a child or just a memory of what might have been, only they knew for certain. And now, with Dean gone and Sophia silent, the truth has become part of Hollywood mythology, a story that will be told and retold, examined and speculated about, but never definitively solved. Some mysteries are meant to endure. This might be one of them. The rumor Dean Martin and Sophia Loren never denied. The child who may exist somewhere, living a quiet life, carrying one of Hollywood's greatest secrets. The love affair that had to remain hidden. The choice that two stars made to protect something at all costs. That's the real story. Not whether it's true or false, but what it says about fame, about sacrifice, about the prices people pay to maintain their public images while protecting their private truths. And if somewhere there's a man who knows he's the son of Dean Martin and Sophia Loren, who carries that knowledge quietly, who has spent his life being the secret that couldn't be told, then this story is about him too. About living in the shadow of greatness. About being both everything and nothing. About the strange burden of being a rumor made flesh. The truth, whatever it is, belongs to them. The rest of us just get the mystery. And sometimes the mystery is enough.